Good evening and welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses. And we are here to discuss another loss in the Tuesday Night Tactics, the match analysis show. Yeah, Duck, get them on. You might need them. I actually don't think we played too bad in this one. But you know what, Duck? How are you, my friend? How is everyone's favourite Danish supporting Leicester City supporter doing today?
I'm doing well. Uni is slowly but surely ramping up, right? And while this semester seems to be a lot of Excel, which is a bit of a struggle to get into, it's an advanced app when you haven't used it in ages. But hopefully the football will be able to cheer me up. It has not. So yeah, I mean, no, I'm doing well though. I'm doing well. It's all well and good here in Denmark, and yeah, I'm not looking forward though to talking about another loss, man.
Well, we'll see. There were some good things. Just want to say hello to everyone who's joined us. So JC first in chat. Well done. Evening to you. Evening Kunal, always in our streams. Thank you so much for being a member. Wolf Henry, hello. And a final whistle, Mr. Jack. Always a pleasure to have you around. So without further ado, let's look at what was a frustrating game, only because I actually think we played quite well for many parts of it. Less well in other ones. So here are the stats. It finished 2-0 to Arsenal. So obviously we're going to go through the analysis. What I thought I'd do today is I want to get your opinion on the game first up, Duck, and then we'll see what you think by the end of the show. So thinking back in your head, what did you think of the game overall? Obviously not pleased with the result. What did you think of it?
Well, I thought the first half we did really well. We defended narrowly. We made it hard for them to get any quality chances, really. And at the end, we offered a bit of a bite, right? We had a bit of a chance. None of them being major where you'd be complaining about scoring, but somewhere maybe you could have wanted more from them, or at the least to be closer to scoring. But I thought first half really, really good, and at the beginning of the second half as well, great life, great determination. But it seems like a decision was made to go for the game, and as soon as we opened that up, it was very clear that the defense would be struggling.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see. And actually, evening to you, Ray. Evening, boys. Another home match with 0 goals. I have to say that is the thing that is starting to frustrate me, Ray. It's not just at home. And if you look at the stats here, I think if you compare this to the game that we played against Arsenal under Steve Cooper, the game was way more even, right? I think against Arsenal, we were basically just holding on for dear life, right? But we did actually score 2 goals in that game. In this game, we were very competitive up until, 80 minutes. But look at our XG, very, very low. And we didn't really create too many chances. Mr. Sebastian Vettel, big fan of your Formula One career. So let's hopefully my analysis career can be as good as your F1 career. And yeah, JC, from 30 plus shots to 10, improvements, but not enough. There we go. And then no Christensen slander in this analysis piece, the Danish goat. Genuinely, I love him. Well, I've got some questions to ask our dear friend Andreas, but that'll be near the end. But there are actually some positives around him too. But let's get on with it then. So here were the team lineups. And with Arsenal, it's an interesting one. We know that they have a lot of injuries, and particularly in the front three, that was definitely a weak front three compared to what we played earlier in the season, where they had Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, they could bring off the bench, etc., Havertz, etc., etc. But at the same time, you've got to say that the rest of the Arsenal team is something pretty special. I mean, that midfield three, Declan Rice, Thomas Partey, Martin Odegaard, that's an elite middle three. The back four is damn good. They've got a keeper who's good with his feet. So yes, in theory, they were going to be a bit more blunt in attack, but still going to be a tough team to break down. We know that they're a good team. As for Leicester, this was the lineup that we went for, and it was fairly similar to the game against Manchester United in the Cup, except Andreas's favourite player, Victor, came back into the team. So what did you think of this starting lineup coming into this game? Do you think this is kind of our strongest team, or what do you think needs to be adjusted?
I think it's close to our strongest team, right? You could definitely want changes on the wings, but we don't have any consistently good performing wingers out there. So it's a bit of shuffling around, seeing who's in form, who adds what to their game, and what are their few strengths. Outside of that, though, I think it's pretty good. Obviously, you're going to have to bring up maybe someone like Vestergaard could have a role to play in that system instead of Wout Faes, in my opinion. O'Coley had a good game there, and I thought Faes in general as well. I thought the team as a whole played pretty well for majority of the game, Yeah,
I definitely see clear coaching patterns and what Ruud is trying to do now, which is not something I could really say under Steve Cooper. But at the end of the day, no goals and no points. So how much is that worth thinking about it? So before we start running through all of the slides, here are some things to keep in your mind. So some points we're going to discuss today. We've changed our auxiliary fullback, starring Mr. Victor Christensen, playing a high line, very effective in this game, playing out from the back and through the lines. That was something that was also notable in this game. Our blunt attack. We've got to talk about that geriatric front three. And towards the end of the show, we're going to look at Steve Cooper compared to Ruud van Nistelrooy, because I think it's only fair. They've played managed an equal sort of number of games now, and maybe we can look at where the strengths and weaknesses of both of them lay. But anyway, let's get on with it. So something that I've observed that Ruud has started to do over the last 3 games, and I'm kind of interested why he's done this, is he's changed the side down which we attack. So as you know, our system also all this season under Cooper and now under Van Nistelrooy is we're getting one of the fullbacks to join in with the attack to be an additional winger. So we defend in the usual 4-4-2, but when we attack, one of the fullbacks gets forward to add an extra winger. And for most of the season, it's been James Justin. But against Manchester United, it was Luke Thomas. And in this game, it is Victor Christensen. So here you can see him when he's appeared on the ball. And I'm going to give you some examples showing that. So here we go. We're defending in the 4-4-2. You can see that VK is just up here. So he's quite far out of the action. Now, as the move goes, so this is Thomas Partey, and he's going to try and find Raheem Sterling, who had a very poor game, I've got to say. Both defenders kept him in check. Justin's cut out the ball. He's going to play it into Booba. Booba's now going to play it into Vardy. And this is now getting into some of this playing out through the back and through the lines, which I think is sort of from Maresca and is something that Ruud is trying to keep. He's going to play it into Ayew. Ayew's going to play it back to Samare. You can actually see where sort of Samare, I think, is sort of so key in the team. He's sort of really linking the play back and forth. And now he's going to play it through to Victor Christensen. And here you can see that here we are up in attack and he's really joining the attack. Justin is actually playing back as one of the CBs. The other 5 are going to attack. And then here we go forward. Now, the only bad thing about this, and this is sort of one of the problems with the sort of system, is that we get forward here and we've actually got like a good number of players here, 5 men forward. And if we had like a fast attack, I'd love to see sort of Victor bomb on and try and beat his man and really try and get to the byline. But unfortunately, and this happens a lot with Leicester under Ruud, he just sort of turns back. Now, you do keep the ball, but it means that you're not really, taking the attack to the next level. So that's something that I think is something that we need to look out for, something we need to improve. But yeah, this is basically what we seem to be doing. So I wonder what your thoughts on there, Andreas, because we've said all season long that, we weren't really under Cooper using maybe Victor Christensen to his strengths, because we know that he's got a good cross and he had a very good cross in this game that we almost scored from. So do you think this is the right way to go? Because the big difference is he's basically moved Bobby Reed from the left-hand side to the right and is attacking down this side.
I like it. I think it plays more into the strength that VK has, right? I've talked about it many times. He is good going forward. He's fast, but not rapid. And I think against someone like Yuri and Timber, right, who definitely has pace in him, it'll be very tough. I thought Arsenal did a very good job at, crowding off whoever came on that overlap. And in this game, right, it was Christensen, because every time he got the ball in that position, he was forced to either fully turn around and play a straight backwards pass. There was no sideward pass option because that option was cut off by Arsenal. And then he would have to take the duel against Yuri and Timber. And often I think he could beat that on a short amount of distance, but over a longer distance, as we saw in the screenshot before, he would never be able to win that, or at most just getting 5 meters and then be forced to do the same thing, turn around, play the ball backwards, because they were really good at cutting him off from the rest of the play in that sense. But I do like the idea. I think it plays to VK's strength. I think we saw some decent crosses from him. And while after the knock, you could definitely feel like his fitness wasn't at 100%, because normally he's able to do that role very well for 90 minutes. It did end up costing us heavily as we continued to do that while he was quite clearly knackered and without any option from the bench to bring on. It led to him being over-abused and over-fatigued for the last 20 minutes and made some howling errors after that.
Maybe. We'll look at that. I think the team could have helped him out more. JC, check out Reddit. There's a group called Football Highlights and you can actually find full matches there. Hopefully that group stays up, but that's where I get all the footage from. I like to watch the whole match back afterwards. I've noticed that whenever we attempt a bounce pass, we struggle to create space because the wide players aren't positioned correctly. Let's keep an eye on that and some of the slides coming up. Ayew should push into the strike role along Vardy. Bilal can create, but Ayew can't. Well, this is the thing with, I think, Ayew. This is something that, doesn't make sense. And I think 3 at the back makes sense at this stage. Well, when we're in possession, that's what we've been doing. But for me, I think the big question is that, like, if someone like Victor or Justin is going to join in the attack, is their attacking output good enough? That said, I would probably say that their attacking output probably is better than Jordan Ayew and Bobby Reed. So, it's a bit of a difficult one to say. Anyway, let's move on and let's talk about another kind of innovation. I wouldn't say innovation, but it's definitely something that Van Nistelrooy has brought in that Steve Cooper didn't go for. And that's we're starting to use the offside trap. Now, we tried this against Everton and it was absolutely awful. We got absolutely smashed by trying it. But this time round, it actually worked really, really well against Arsenal, to the extent that I actually think if I was an opposition manager and I was playing Arsenal, I would look at this game and I think I might try and use that against them, because that's how effective it was at kind of negating them. So I'm sure you're all aware, but what is the offside trap? The offside trap is when you're back 4 or 3, whatever, they step up all as a unit and you leave the guy who they try and play a through ball too. It means you can move everyone up forwards, you can frustrate the opposition, and it's a very good defensive tactic. It's rather than you having to be like forced under pressure and clearing things, it's going to cause you be a more proactive style if it works. So let's see how we got that to work. So here we can see early on in the game, and this is sort of where you can see that teams play the offside trap. So you can see the back 4. I've put on a little line here, and you can see that they've all stepped up. So, in some ways, this can go wrong, right? Because if you don't step up all together, or the opposition is clever and they play the right ball at the right time, there is space here for the opposition to get into. But what's good when it works, you can see how compact the sort of defensive block is. And it means that Arsenal are forced to sort of play it here. And if they do try and play it behind and they time their run wrong or it's incorrect, they're going to be caught offside, which we'll see examples of. So that's what we were trying to do. So when a team plays the offside trap, the way to kind of counter it is you want to play the ball over the top. And this is what Everton did. And, they smashed us. They did it within 6 seconds.
They made it work instantly, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much instantly, right? And maybe you need some time to get it working, right? But here we can see it was just, well, to be fair to Ruud, he stuck with it. He's got it working against training, and against a much better team in Arsenal, it was more effective. So here you can see that the ball's been played through. You can actually see already that Justin and Wout Faes, and you can see where they've already got their hand up. So they're looking at the linesman. But what's good is if they're not going to get the decision, they're going to keep playing on. And the ball's gone back to Hermansen here. So they've actually, in this case, the guy wasn't offside, but the ball wasn't good enough. And you can actually see that these positions are pretty good. So given that these two players are faster than Yannick, they probably would have a chance of getting back. It's also 2-on-1. So that's pretty good. But as the game continues, you can see that we get this working a lot more effectively. So here we got Martin Odegaard, great player, one of the best in the Premier League. He's going to go for the kind of ball over the top. But here you can see the difference in the things. Here's the back 4. They push up. And this is what we weren't doing really against Everton so well. So they've pushed up. No, we've actually got 3 men offside here. So really good. The ball's dinked over the top. That's offside. And you can see there's the ref to blow the flag.
I like it. I think it's bold, it's brave. And to do it at this time really requires a shit ton of balls. I'm very, very impressed that they have decided to do this now and that they've been able to pull it off. I mean, it definitely cost us the Everton game. And I think maybe Ruud didn't realize that Yannick Vestergaard moves slower than a truck. And I think this is the problem with Vestergaard, and he does not have a role to play if we want to keep using this system of playing the highlight, which I think can definitely work, considering this is one of the first times I think this whole season I've seen our defense this in sync. They were really good at guiding each other, really good at backing each other up. If someone was out of position, they always stepped up together in line. And yeah, I was really impressed by our, unit as a defense this game. And I think that's why I want to stick with the same thing next time. I'm obviously a bit sad as a Dane to not see Vestergaard fit in, but it's very understandable because he will not work in this sort of system. He cannot step up like that, like Fast, like Okoli, like the 2 other fullbacks as well, right? So I think it's brave. I think it's bold. And to do it against Arsenal and make it look this flawless in the first half, really, really impressive.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one, right? What I would say with Vestergaard is actually in an offside system, he could still play, but his tendency is that he always takes a step back when the ball is played through because you can tell he's scared. And what he'd need to learn is actually to be even more bonkers and take a step forward. Like that's how you would coach him. You would tell him that as soon as you see the ball played over the top, rather than you going backwards, you take a step forwards. Because Pau Torres, for example, for Aston Villa, he's not the fastest, and yet it's still oftentimes worked. But I would say that it's good. You can see, this is my point about Ruud is trying to coach an identity into the team. But look, here's a fair point from JC. He says, how have you improved defensively, yet still continue to concede 2 a game every game? Which is a very good point. And we're going to kind of be touching upon this, I think, throughout the show. So I would say that I think he has done things to try and improve it. But as we'll see through the game, I think individual errors are always costing him. And is that just because our defense isn't good enough? And is this a case of if he had better players, would the system work? Or does he need to be a bit more pragmatic? I would say that, well, here's good, right? So what I've done here were our 2 games against Arsenal this season. And so what I've compared here is the average pitch positions. So here you can see that when we played them the first time with Cooper, I mean, this is as deep a block you're going to get, right? There's barely a single player in the opposition half. You can see how deep back everyone is. And we're just hanging on for dear life. Whereas here, the next time that we've played him, we've been much more bold. You can see how much further forward the defenders are, certainly. Still, we're not really getting into the other half enough. I mean, we've got to say, except that Arsenal had more possession and they are a better team than us, but you can kind of see what we're trying to do. So, yeah, and look, actually, this more bold approach actually got us a better performance, although the result was the same. So that's just something to think about. I'm not trying to say if it's right or wrong, but I wanted to bring it up because here you can see there's the clear identity and a change in what we're trying to do as a team. Now, another thing that we've said all season long is that JJ has been caught isolated.
Very familiar slide, that one.
Very familiar. I think this might even be the most but you know what, Andreas? I was literally going to put a cross through it with the animation because, again, and this is why I think Ruud has moved to going with Victor Christensen, is that he has tried to fix this. And this is one of our big criticisms of Steve Cooper, that we knew that it was an issue and he never really did anything to try and address it in this entire tenure at Leicester City. Whereas Ruud now has tried a few things, and I think he's starting to get some good results here. So here's actually an opportunity where JJ wins the ball back. And I think we've got to say that James Justin, he got taken off injured at the end of the half, but he had a great game, in my opinion. I'll ask you about that in a second. But here he gets the ball. You can see in just a short space of time there, he's actually driven all the way up and got into the attack. So now he's joining the attack. And in this sort of rare instance where he's won the ball back, you'll actually see that Victor actually drops back. So that's the thing. They know in tandem that if one goes, the other one's got to stay back to try and make sure that we've always got 5 men back and 5 men forward. So here you can see him here. But of course, what can happen is the ball ended up breaking loose and he ends up losing the ball. Now, under Steve Cooper, this was heart in your mouth time because basically, most likely there was going to be a goal conceded in probably the next 10 to 14 seconds. Alejandro Garnacho for Man United absolutely smashed us in the Cooper games against him. So the ball's come back here, but you can see what he's done here, which is smart, is here you've got Wilfred Ndidi, who, of course, he got our man of the match. But what you can see is he's filling in for him, and that's all you need to do. So you can see even Justin's like, oh, right, you got to cover me kind of thing. And here you can see that we've got the 4-4-2, but now Ndidi's playing right back and Justin's here. So Ndidi will cover this man who's Trossard, Justin will cover Raheem Sterling. But as Arsenal decide to go backwards, now you can see that they switch back positions and now they get back into the 4-4-2. So it's very simple. I don't know why Cooper never did it before, but basically what happens is he's got Ndidi to help out of Justin. If one goes, he makes sure the other fullback drops back and he has cover. And that helped. And I think as a result, many of you are saying this here, JJ was great. JJ's best game. Definitely do. Here's what Specimen tells us. I believe our overall structure is more compact, but we're experiencing more issues due to individual errors and non-alignment of teams sometimes during the break. Well, do you know what? Great comment. We'll come back to that.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I think it's well said, right? And as you highlight, very simple change to protect JD. We saw that in his first game in charge as well against against West Ham. He did the same thing for both fullbacks whenever they were in trouble to really just get that extra man in defense. And that's why Ndidi is so key, because he'll take that role up compared to wings, and he'll do it to an A grade. Yeah, I think defensively speaking, we concede less stupid goals or less well-created goals, I want to say, actually. I think more of the goals they make are from stupid mistakes we still make. It was something we talked about under Cooper as well, right? About Fars against Chelsea. That goal, none of us are sitting there blaming Cooper. That all goes on Fars. And I think it's all these mistakes that I think characteristically are coming far too often. It is not an uncharacteristic mistake anymore, which is saddening to see. But it is so rare nowadays. I feel like we are just being played off the park, where every time really I felt like our opponent had this ball in any position like this, when it was Cooper, they could very quickly get a pass. I'm in particular thinking back to the Southampton game where they scored 2 beautiful goals. Southampton did that to us within the first half. We were ripped to shreds by them. And that's when I knew Cooper ball. I mean, we might have gotten the results, but we were blessed by the gods that day, because we should not be allowed to win that game.
Yeah, well, we're going to come on to that in the end. Kunal, didn't Jordan Henderson do that as well to cover for Trent in 2019? It works well. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got to say that I'm still not the biggest fan of this system, but you can definitely get this system working, right? I mean, plenty of teams have done it. The best one at the moment is probably Aston Villa. They certainly play that way, and it worked here. Conscious is saying Arteta helped JJ most of all. Sterling was absolutely honking. I do agree. Sterling even looked like he was carrying a bit of timber. But I still think when they moved Trossard out to that side, we still generally coped with it. It was Marino, obviously, that became the problem. And at the end of the day, Raheem Sterling's won many Premier Leagues, played for some of the top clubs. So he's still, on paper, the better player. But I agree. I think I saw one of the Arsenal channels and they said even though they won, they gave Raheem Sterling a 0 out of 10 performance. So they really thought he was bad. And he was pretty bad, to be honest. He made Jordan Ayew look good. Shocking. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the next one, which is playing out from the back. So, of course, I've got Enzo here because that's the one that, like, we did do it under Brendan Rodgers, but we didn't do it to this sort of extremity. And again, this is something that we tried to do all season, but we're definitely trying to do it with Rude. And I think we're starting to see some good and bad things about it. So I'm going to go through that now. So here we've got Mads, your second favorite Dane. He's on the ball here. He's going to play it out to fast. And yeah, just enjoy this move as I go through this, because this is like a very well constructed move and you can see how we pop it. And so what we're trying to do, and the reason why playing out from the back has become so popular, is because so many teams in the Premier League run a high press. So you can see here Trossard is we're trying to give Trossard, we're trying to give Odegaard, we're trying to give Declan Rice here who's joined in, and we're trying to give them the runaround, and we're trying to create space where there wasn't any. So here we're going to play it through to Samare. Samare, I think, is key to this. He's going to play it back to FaZe. FaZe is going to play it all the way over to Okoli. Okoli's got the ball here. He's going to play it back to the keeper. You can see that we're just sort of playing. What we're trying to do is we're trying to do this. We're trying to actually provoke the press. And we're trying to get Arsenal to commit. And if we play this forward just a little bit more, now here's the key thing. You can see that Samare's got the ball here. And look, he's got 5 people around him. So this is where they're trying to like snap on you. That's kind of how I refer to it, right? He's the trigger. They're all going to go and try and get it. And they're going to try and win the ball off Samare and start an attack themselves. But if you're a good player and you're a good team and you've got someone who's good at playing under pressure and you know, very composed, despite the fact he's got 5 around him, he finds the ball to Okoli. And now this opens the passing lane through this gap. And Okoli, who we have said isn't the best with the passing, but I think people are going to have to change their minds on that pretty quickly. So he's going to play the ball forward here. And now, can you see that we're doing this? We've actually taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Potentially, we've taken 6 Arsenal players out of the game. So that's the reason why in the modern game it can work, because it's a good way to counter the high pressing system. So Okoli's played it to Vardy. Vardy's kind of dropped in deep to the false 9. So what he's trying to do is drag his players around him to create further space in behind again, right? So this is what all these sort of principles. Again, it's going to go to Buba Samare, and he's going to drive forwards. And here you can see again that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and actually there's just 4 Arsenal players here. So on paper, again, this is a great opportunity. However, this again, and Costa brought this up, and I absolutely agree with him. He goes, you know, the team is structured better. We just need to play faster wingers. Or perhaps just more kind of aggressive or attacking players, because we've done all that hard work. We've got the ball up here, but what did we actually do with it? We could maybe have done better. And that's something that I feel is a problem with the players that we signed, because I feel like last year when we got into these incidents, because we would have had here, this would have been Fatawu, this would have been Mabadidi, that would have probably been Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, that would have been Wilfred Ndidi, and that was a really, really good, you know, attacking kind of system to do this. So
yeah,
we're gonna, yeah,
I agree. I think the fact that we don't do so much to get the ball in that position, and you see Sean eye on the ball, and the play ends there. Like there is nothing more to come from it except for maybe another backwards pass, right? And it's really annoying, because if we had a Fatawu on the right side currently, he would have eaten this chance up, and at the very least gotten a cross in, maybe won a corner, got a shot or something. And maybe even Mabadidi. The thing is about Didi, he's been more inconsistent, right? He'd very likely just lose the ball. But the thing why I probably prefer Mabadidi a bit more is he would be trying to make it happen. He would be trying to do something, because so often we work so hard and for 30 minutes to get this chance maybe, and then so little happens of it. I mean, you're going to show a replay where there is actually something happening from it, but I still think it's not as often, nearly often enough, which is very, very disappointing to me.
Yeah, we don't do it often enough, but this is one of the few times where actually even the turtle plays a forward pass. He plays it into Samare. So well played, Samare. We just shown him he was 6 yards from his own touchline less than 20 seconds ago, and he's made all the hard running to get here. He's going to try and whip in across. He does it. He's going to try and find Bilal. It kind of falls backwards, but it's going to come to Ndidi, and you can see what Ndidi's trying to do. Left-footed, by the way, as a number 6. And in the end, he gets a shot on target, but, you know, he's not hitting it quite how he wanted to. But that was a good chance. What I would say, though, is that the quality obviously isn't as good as it could be. Like here, I guess in an ideal world, Samari, could he find like a cross to the back post? Something to think about. But look, that all came because we played out through the back, we played out through the press, and we generated the chance. So again, that's a sort of identity. So we're sort of seeing these key characteristics, right? Rude is trying to play a high line. He's trying to play the offside trap. He's trying to play out from the back, play through the lines, and try and generate a superiority when we beat the team on transition. That's what he's trying to do. In this case, we just don't particularly score it. But coming on to Ndidi, Ndidi had a great game. I'll ask you for your opinion in a moment. But he had this great chance towards the end. So This is right on the stroke of half time. You got Mads here. He just plays like a simple ball forward. Fair play to Ayew. He actually takes it down first time. Trying to do his best Riyad Mahrez impression. Of course, if that was Mahrez, he would have probably stuck it top right-hand corner. Ayew not quite as good. So the ball kind of has a bit of a transitional moment, breaks free a little bit. Bilal's going to try and stick it back into the box. But anyway, ends up with a Kohli. You see, this is the thing about playing a high line. Look at how high him and Faze are now. They can try and support the attack. It's going to come into Christensen. And this is the thing that we've been saying with Victor, which is that his delivery is actually pretty damn good, right? And we'd like to see him do this more often. So look at his position. This is almost Beckham-esque, because this is where Beckham used to cross the ball from that far out. He's going to go for the ball in. And actually, at first, I thought indeed he might have headed this from outside the box. But no, it's very well targeted. Look at his position where he gets to it. He gets there. He makes it his. And, this is actually quite a good opportunity, I would say. If you could get
I'd love to see that on target at the very least. But it's not an opportunity where I'm like complaining that you should score from there, but you would like to see him do a bit better. But maybe in another world, right? It's a bit of funny because we had been on top for the past 4 minutes of that half, and we did get quite a few good chances. This being the best one of them, and so sad we didn't get to convert it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at our XG for the game, it was pretty low. So I think it's hard to say that we had good chances, but at least we're trying to do something. But again, if this is going to be the system going forward, I think this is something that, see, I prefer attacking with Christensen than Justin, because I feel that this is something that Christensen is actually good at. He's actually pretty good at crossing the ball with his left foot. It's another frustration why Mavadidi doesn't pass to him. Maybe that's why it's actually helpful that Mavadidi doesn't play, because we get more out of him. So my point is that if you're going to play this system where the fullback joins in, the fullback has got to offer you something. Kunal mentioned Trent Alexander-Arnold previously. And what's Alexander-Arnold's best attribute? It's his crossing, right? He's an elite crosser. So having someone that can deliver the ball in like that could make a big difference. So anyway, we get to half-time. So at half-time, you can see our XG is pretty low. We only really had that one chance. But you can say that compared to Arsenal as well, Arsenal restricted them to just 4 chances. And I felt, given the quality of the opposition, that this was pretty good. I think Manny described it to me at half-time as being a bit of a nothing game. And I haven't got a problem with it being a nothing game against Arsenal, a top team like this.
With the current form we're in. I would have taken a nothing game every day of the week. If I could walk away, almost being bored, but we got a point on the board against Arsenal, I would have been pretty excited just from that. Yeah,
I would have taken a 0-0. But I think, to be fair to Ruud, he could see that Arsenal were pretty poor. And I think a lot of people were saying in the match day watch along that Arsenal were there for the taking. And I think Ruud felt that himself. So start the sort of first 5 to 10 minutes of the second half, it was definitely noticeable that we pushed up a lot higher. And he wanted to try and get something against Arsenal, probably because he saw that we almost scored. So now you can see we're being a bit more direct. We're not playing it out through the line so much. Here we go, Mads just pushing up forward. Now it's going to get dealt with by Arsenal, but look how many more players are forward now and how we're trying to do what Arsenal were trying to do to us earlier in the game. We're trying to snap on them and win the ball back. And this particular instance, it works. The ball's going to come to Samare. He's going to now go to Karius. Karius gets stuck in. I think for that one, he actually got booked for. I think it's a bit unfair, but you could see the aggressive approach. So clearly we told him, get stuck in. Let's start on the front foot. Let's not just start the second half like we did against Palace, for example, a few games ago. And as a result of this sort of taking the game to Arsenal, we did start generating some good opportunities. So here we're going to play the ball through, and we can see that, basically a game to Arsenal. They ended up giving the ball away to Ayew here. And this is like one of the few instances of a good moment from Jordan Ayew. So here we've got 4 against 4. You can see that the blue arrows are going to attack. And you can see that, again, through sort of this approach, we've actually managed to isolate Arsenal. So Ayew hasn't got anyone to beat. So that's the thing is Jordan Ayew isn't particularly good at beating his man. But if there's no man to beat, then he's actually good, right? So he's going to charge down. He's scanned up. You can see he's looking for. He takes it into the box. And fair enough, on his weaker left foot, he's going to go for the ball across. You can see what he's trying to find there. Yeah. And if Lewis Skelly doesn't get his foot on that, I mean, that could even have been an OG. Bobby Reed was there to tap it in. So, I mean, JC says Reed needs to get ahead of his man here. I think that's been a bit harsh. It's a good move here.
Just a few small things in that, right? The play before, as you mentioned as well, the fact that we were able to press this high and be aggressive at the beginning to not, even if we don't get anything from it, the fact that we don't make the same mistake we did against Crystal Palace and Fulham, right? Letting them get 2 early goals in the second half and losing the game in that sense, just when we've played a very good first half. And this one as well, Luke talked about the lack of substitutions early on. I think here as well, you can it's hard to see in the screenshot here, but you could feel both of the players we are seeing in action here. Vardy trying to make the run and Ayew with the ball. They have more pace in them. Not much, but they have more pace in them had they had fresh legs, right? But they were knackered at this point. 72 minutes in, And had this been a fresh Mavididi or a fresh Daka pressing, something else might have happened. I think Jordan Ayew does the best he can with the fitness he has available to him there and gets a very good ball in as well. I'm by no means denying that. This is more falling on roots, saying, had you made 2 early substitutions here at the 60th minute, and we have players there with more pace and fresh legs coming in, this situation could have looked a whole lot different. For the better or the worse, I can't guarantee. I personally believe for the better, but I think Jordan Ayew does the best with what he has left in the tank here.
Yeah, well, some interesting comments here. So Kunal says, if that was Mavididi and Fatau, I think it would have been a tap in. And I might agree, just because if it was those two, the thing is you'd have much faster wingers. And Brookline's making like a similar point here. He's saying, I'm spearheading the Vardy out brigade. The thing about having pace is if this was like a faster front three, they might be 5-10 yards more further forward, which makes the difference between Lewis Skelly being able to get back and him not being able to get back. And I think if you look at Forest this season, who are without doubt the best counter-attacking team in the Premier League this season, they've got Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga on both sides. And those two are really, really rapid and they've got a great end product. And they've still got a fairly slow striker in Chris Wood. I wouldn't say he's like a geriatric, but he's definitely nowhere near as fast as the other two, but he drops deep sometimes to give those players room as well. So I do actually agree that, well, we've been saying it all the time. If we had faster wingers, it would make a big difference in this league. And I think that is one of the big reasons. I did say at the start of the show, why is our attack so blunt? And it is a big reason. Like I've got a feeling, because they're probably going to be with us next season, that Jordan Ayew and Bobby Reid in the Championship, I wouldn't be surprised if they destroy it. But I mean, it's like, that's not really the point, right? We want them to destroy
that's not what we spent the 8 million quid on Ayew on, or whatever we spent on him, 5 million. And I mean, he could overread. I don't know his wages, but on a free, right? Less to complain about that. I think both those players have repaid that very cheap transfer fees, obviously, 3 and £5 million. But you can see there's a reason they are that.
Right? I mean, they shouldn't be starting because they're not going to get you out of a relegation.
I think someone like Ayew from the bench is very nice. Deco Reid from the bench is very nice, or starting here and there in cup games to trash on some championship team or whatever. But the fact we've been starting with 3 straight weeks in the Premier League battling for survival, that's just shocking.
Mr. Azabaza, I don't want to seem like I'm annoying. I just want to see Monga and Mavididi both have pace. I sort of agree with that. I think that, like, we want to see, people. Yeah, I think it'll make a big difference. Something to try, especially in the sort of last 15, 20 minutes. Right now, we're going to talk about transition. So the thing with us pressing up, and here's the sort of thing, is when you try and chase the game yourself, is you're going to start leaving gaps in behind. And in the second half, the difference was it wasn't becoming a nothing game anymore. The game was starting to get stretched. So it felt like there was going to be a goal. It's just which team's going to score it. Now, end of the first half, Justin unfortunately had an injury. I don't know if he's going to miss the next game. To me, it looked like he probably would. So on came Koulibaly, who was, of course, the one signing that we made in January. And he got a pretty good rating. So in chat, let me know what you thought of him. I thought he had a pretty good game. But here we can see, so another transitional moment. This time round, it's a duel between Ndidi and Odegaard. Odegaard managed to win this time, and Arsenal on the attack. And you can see now they're almost on the top opportunity where they could get a man advantage. So the ball's going to get played out here to Raheem Sterling, but Koulibaly's on the scene, and this was really nice to see. 1-on-1 in a duel, and he won it pretty easily, and he turned and took it forward. So that's the point about, Raheem Sterling having a pretty poor game. But someone who didn't have a poor game, I've got to say, I didn't know too much about him. I obviously had heard the hype, but seeing that this guy is just 17 years old, who knew that Arsenal had a Saka regen, even though Saka is just 21
that is
years
crazy.
Old.
It's such an early region, but
it's funny. The first half, I felt we did a really good job of keeping him basically anonymous, and he was pretty quiet. But as the gaps opened up, this guy started to shine. And I actually think we defended him well, but he could easily have scored. So here again is a transitional moment. Indeed, he's playing the ball to El Khanous here, but you can see, I think this is Declan Rice, and fair play, he's chasing all the way back. And even though he's supposed to try and get the ball off Ndidi, he actually ends up winning the ball off El Khanous. So very good defending there. Now Thomas gets on the ball, and now Arsenal can get on the attack. And this is actually Odegaard now, who's standing up there, his midfield partner. And you can see like Nanieri as well. He knows what he's supposed to do. So he's going to get on his bike. And this is something that's really great about Odegaard. I actually think El Khanous, I get Odegaard vibes. But of course, Martin Odegaard is the level above, right? He's playing at that top level that that I hope Bilal can get to. So that's a great ball. Like you can see, there's not too much space to operate in. He finds, I mean, look at that. To be fair, we're defending this well, right? If I'm looking this from a defensive perspective, you know, of course, maybe, I mean, you can't even get the block there. So we're doing well. And so fair play to Nwaneri. He's 2-on-1 there, but he shifts the ball onto his left-hand side. Again, it's pretty good defending. So from here, if you're going to score, he's not even in the box. You're going to have to hit one hell of a strike. But I mean, fair play to him. Yeah, he hit the crossbar with that shot.
Man. That is absolute class. There's definitely a brilliant play in there. And what I think is impressive, maybe that's just saying that's the 60th minute. That's the first time we really saw him in the game be impactful, right? But yeah, just pure class. As you say, we squeeze the space. He creates a new space, and even when we're still positioned well, he hits just barely the top of the crossbar. Not far from scoring a worldie there in one of his first full starts for Arsenal.
He would walk into our team. He's pace.
He definitely would. He would walk, man.
You know, this is exactly what our team doesn't have.
I don't even guys like anything.
He's fast. He gets onto the ball. He can dribble, so he can shift it on. And you know, he did have end product because he actually got an assist later, but that was unlucky. And after that, he actually hit the post as well. So he looks really good. I mean, he's going to get into the England team, no doubt about it. When, I don't know, and it'll be interesting because he'll be. I wonder how Arteta's actually going to use him. I mean, that's great options. You can play Saka, and if Saka's not working out, you can have Nwaneri. Do you put them both in the same team? We're going to see a lot of them. Right. Next thing, I love the casual catch up in chat as well. Please, guys, go for it. You know, set pieces. So I think we do have to talk about this, right? So Arsenal are brilliant at set pieces, right? They've scored the most amount of goals for set pieces than anyone else. So defending them was going to be an issue. And actually, we did concede one goal against them in the last time we played them. And that was the one that broke our hearts because it was 2-2 and that made it 3-2 and pretty much game over. Now, something that's really interesting is that at first, this might look a bit like a mismatch. So you've got Gabriel there and look who's marking is Bobby Reid. And look at that. That looks like big brother, younger brother. So when you see this, you might be thinking, what on earth is going on? But what the idea of the tactic here is that we kind of defend in this sort of half zonal, half man marking system. So we try and have our more physical players, you can see here, they're on the line and they're going to be defending the zone. And what players like Bobby Reid are used for is they're being used to block the runs. So we accept that there's no way that Bobby Reid can beat Gabriel one-on-one. But just by standing in his way and making it difficult, by the time he does get to the ball, you can see that now, JJ, I've shown this on this show before, that he's got really good aerial stats at winning the ball in the air. We've got more of a fair match. And in this particular instance, it means it works well. We can deal with it and we deal with the corner. So we did this really well throughout the whole game. And if we look at our 2022 season, 23 season, where we got relegated, we conceded so many goals off set pieces that particular season. So here again, this time round, at this point in time, JJ's gone off. So with Justin off, they've now decided to get Christensen on Gabriel. And again, look, he's trying to be physical. And look, again, we managed to end up dealing with it. So, you know, we are one of the few teams this season that haven't conceded a goal to Gabriel on the set piece. And I think you've got to say Andrew Hughes, who's the set piece coach. We still concede a lot of goals, but fair play. We haven't conceded that particular one. So we've definitely improved that aspect.
We don't concede a lot from set pieces in general. I think it's a key area, right? One of the best things Cooper brought to the team. In terms of the relegation season, yes, we conceded a whole heap of set pieces, but it did actually improve towards the end. And you know why? That's because we had a Dane as a set piece coach. They brought in Lars Knudsen, who was actually the Danish national team manager for a few months, but now he's pursuing a head coach role. So maybe if Ruud gets sacked, Lars Knudsen will come back and bring us back into the Premier League. Who knows?
Yeah. More Danish glazing, of course.
Of course, man. I have to.
All right, let's talk about subs. And look, let's be honest, the game changed on this sub. Now, it's funny because when I looked at their bench, I'm pretty sure I was saying to the guys in the watch-along that we do privately that, you know, if you look at the Arsenal bench, this is really looking quite positive for Leicester because they don't really have anyone on the bench that can really turn the game. They don't have another attacking option.
That's a jinx.
It is a jinx, but I think you've also got to give credit to Arteta. So Sterling had an awful game. He took him off. He put Mikel Merino on. And what he did is he actually decided to play him as a striker, stroke a false nine. And he moved Trossard, who was playing that position, into the left-hand side. His movement was good, but I think we're going to start looking at these goals. And I think you've also got to question our team here as well. So here's the first goal. So we actually see it's Koulibaly, and he's played it into El Khanous. El Khanous is driving forward here. And he's going to play it to Mavididi. So this is actually looking good. And this is actually one of the sad things. Is this is actually a Leicester attack. So you can see Mavididi's got the ball. And here again, I want to highlight actually the strengths of Victor Christensen here. So you can see, look how far back he is compared to Mavididi. but look how quickly he makes up the space. You can
And
see
does
what
he get
is
the
there.
ball?
Well, you know the answer to that question. And this is why everyone was absolutely furious, because this has done everything right? In terms of a team setup, Mavididi is 2-on-1 here. And so that's the reason why Victor has joined the attack, because he's lured these two players in. It means it's just a simple ball he's got to play down the line, and that means Christensen can go for the cross. And we've already seen from the first half that Victor is a good crosser of the ball. So that's the ball he should have played. But instead, he dawdles on the ball. He tries his 2,000 step overs as per usual. I mean, look, to be fair, he beats one man, but he's 2-on-1, and he ends up losing the ball there to Jorginho. And the problem is because Victor, look how hard Victor is. So where is he not going to be? He's not going to be there to defend. Now, obviously, we're going to have someone back to try and cover, but it means that there's now a problem. And yeah, IQ from Mavididi. I mean, I think for him, it's not just that. I think it's just, is he trying to show off too much? Is he trying to get his way back into the team? But the irony is that I'm telling you, me as a coach, is if he actually did pass the ball here to Victor and we ended up scoring, even though Mavididi wouldn't have got the assist afterwards in the game, I'd be, well done, Steffi. You came on and you changed the game because you were smart.
And I think, like, to me as well, what he does when he takes the dribble, in isolation, I don't have a problem with that. The problem is it is every single time, or 9 out of 10 times at the very least, because you need some variation. You have a very hard working fullback here who overlaps constantly, and he knows he's not going to get the ball every time. It is often just also to give that extra bit of space to Mavididi to work in, right? We need someone who can do both. But I can't remember the last time he's effectively used Victor Christiansen's overlap. And I can remember having it cost us more times than it's made us a goal.
I've literally only ever seen him pass to Christensen once in 10 games, which is insane. So anyway, let's see this out. Yeah. So now this is Arsenal now. They're on the counter-attack for the transition. Odegaard's picked up the ball. They're going to drive forwards. Now, initially, we're not too badly set up here, right? So it was Samare that was covering for Victor Christensen. So he's in the left-back slot here. It's going to get played out here. This is Timber, I believe. So right back is going forward to support their attack. And again, we've got players in fairly good spaces. It's not looking too bad. Odegaard gets played back into him. He cuts inside. He's going to play the ball over to Calafiore. I've got to say that Calafiore was also on for not long, but he made a big difference. Luke did call him out as being a danger man. He had a really good game against us the first time we played against Arsenal. He's now going to play it out to this is Trossard now, is on the left-hand side. And here, it's still not looking too bad. We've got the defensive block. Koulibaly, I think fair play to him as well. He's in he tried to keep the compact 4-4-2, but now he knows he's got to go out to try and stop the cross. And he kind of does, because he puts some pressure on, the ball comes in, and it means that Samari can deal with it. So he's going to end up kind of coming out, but it falls here now. This is Lewis Skelly. And he's going to play it into Nwaneri. Nwaneri's here. And look, we're pretty well set up here, actually. But now here's the danger, right? So Koulibaly here. This is a tough one, right? Because he should, in my opinion, he's got to be keeping an eye out actually on Trossard. And I think that Marino is actually got to be phased. But you can see with the system, is it's sort of like a zonal 4-4-2. So Nwaneri's got the ball. He's going to go for distinct crossing. He does it. You can see what he's going for. He's going for the gap in between the two men. And he gets it. And it ends up being a goal. And that is just sort of so frustrating. Yeah, I was going to ask chat here, man. It feels personal. It's Wout's, man. You tell me who you think it is. So I've tried to highlight again in terms of his position, and you can see what it means to. And yeah, you can just see how crestfallen Rude was. The team was. Look at that. That is how we were.
And that's the heartbreak, right? Because they've worked so hard and so well for those 80 minutes, and then it's just the slipping concentration. That one mistake.
Yeah.
And they are there to punish us. That is how a top Premier League team will be, right? That's how they'll do. They didn't have their best day at office, but they stepped up when it mattered. And impressively, right? A substitute and some of the kids as well linking up well. It's so disappointing, and you have to feel for our players, man. They work so hard, and for it to all come crashing down at that very moment, heartbreak.
Yeah, I do feel though that his phase switching off. I mean, look here, you could say should Koulibaly go in to try and deal with it, but he's behind the ball, and like I say, he's actually doing a good job. In case the ball goes further, he would be able to stop Trossard from getting for it. So, yeah, I 100% agree with this. Wild's biggest negative is dealing with balls like that. He is not good at reading the flight of the ball. He doesn't position himself, because you just know, right? If this is Konate or Van Dijk for Liverpool, of course, they're top class defenders, but they're going to monster the ball in that case, right? They're just, if that was Wesley Fofana still playing for us, I bet if it was Charlie Soyuncu, he would deal with it. And we don't. And it's just so painful, because really, that's Arsenal's first really big proper chance. Yeah, Nwaneri had that really nice sort of almost wonder goal, but this is sort of their first clear chance. And fair play, Mourinho sticks it into the back of the net. And as I say, Caleb Okoli, even Samare, they both know how it feels. Exactly.
It's heartbreaking.
Ruud responded immediately. And what he went for is he went to the 4-4-2. So what he goes for now is he took off Ndidi, which, look, to be fair, I think, Ndidi's still coming back from injury. He had a great game. Everyone gave him man of the match. So he's now put on Buonanotte for Ndidi, and he just went for like a classic 4-4-2. But I think what's really sad is that basically, look at when the sub is made and look at when they scored their second goal. So we never even got the opportunity to see if this would work or not. So again, Mavrodidi's on the ball. Now, this time around, Mavrodidi does better. He goes down the line and actually he gets fouled by Jorginho and we actually win a free kick. So Victor Christensen's going to take the free kick and we're going to go and try and send it in. And look, this is another thing that's really, really annoying. So basically, both the goals that we ended up conceding in this game, they started because we gave the ball away in the attacking area. We got caught on transition. So the ball ends up dealt with. It goes to sort of Mavrodidi. He loses it out here. Arsenal end up dealing with it. It comes actually back here to Christensen, comes into El Khanous. Again, Arsenal managed to deal with the defensive thing. So in this sort of position, though, even though Victor's out of position, Arsenal got a lot of men back. We're fairly well covered. We know we're going to have 5 men back still. So we should be able to deal with this attack. And, here's the thing. I do feel that under Cooper, the few times that we attacked, we did look pretty exposed when the ball went out on the other end. Now here we've ended up conceding, but it's just so frustrating because when you look at the defensive positionings, basically we should never have conceded this in a month of Sundays. So Calafiori's on the ball again here. You can see that we've got 3 men back here, 2 of which are fast. You've got Okoli and you've got Koulibaly, who are pretty fast. And look here again, look how many people we've got back. Same case here. There's only 2 people. One person's even fallen on the floor here. Now, here's what I think is criminal. Is Andreas, what's wrong with this picture?
There are many things wrong with this picture. I think one of them being we have a lot of ball watches. Christiansen should be running towards his man that he's running back, trying to get us take up a centre back position. It's a bit confusing.
I don't know what he's doing. I think, to be fair, JC says Okoli needs to be better here, but I would disagree with you because I think if you're the centre back, he's actually in the perfect space, which is he's got to be here. What he would be quite rightly expecting, I think, is that my left back would be somewhere around here, or if he's not there, he's going to make that move out there. So that's not what happened. I mean, this is even worse, right? So look, we've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 defenders back here. Arsenal have basically got 2. Let's be generous and say they've got 3 attackers. So it's 7 on 3, right? There is no way that we should be conceding here. And it's just a simple ball across that you can see with the back 4. This is why I'm saying Okoli's in the right position. These 3 are in the correct position. The person who is not in their correct position is, look, literally, if you do the space, the next man should be here, which would mean they could deal with it. They're not there, and that means it's another tap in, and that's it. And just to sort of put a few, some more sort of covering the crime. Sorry, I kept the receipts. At first, I thought, okay, do you know what? Maybe he just didn't know it was a really good run from Marino, and no one spotted him. But I've got 2 pieces of evidence to further condemn the Victor. There he is. He's scanned. He's seen Mikel Marino there, and here again, he's looking. He can see him in the direction. Why he doesn't go, I don't know. Look, would we have got anything back? Do you know what? I don't know. I think maybe we still could have, because the thing is that we were competitive in this game. It was definitely a tough day out for Arsenal. I think they were happy with it, but I don't think they feel like they got away with one. But I think they actually felt like it was a good performance from them, to be honest with you, that they found something, to where the game easily could have been a 0-0. So look, in the end, as I say, it's ended 2-0 to the Arsenal, not 1-0. And all those big chances came in the second half. Up until 80th minute, it was level. Up until the 80th minute, it was level in the first game as well. In fact, it was level up until the 90th minute, the first time we played them. So it's crazy that we've actually only been behind to Arsenal for a total of about 15 minutes. But, they've got, 6 points. We've got 0. Victor has been very dodgy at the back post this season. I'll be honest with you. I agree with that. I think it can be something that can be coached. But because, the thing is we said he was tired, right? And at first, that's what I assumed it was. But the thing is that, especially in this sort of position, right? He's actually got back into the right position. So to give him credit, his engine means that he's actually got back. It's not like he's where Mavrodidi is, who, you can say what you want about him. He's never going to help you out in this situation, right? So he's got there. He could easily get back in time, and he didn't. So look, we don't need to keep doing character assassinations. He still offered a lot. I think, let's be honest, if it was the first goal that was really the one that killed us, but this second one, I mean, it was this. And look, fair enough. People were saying, is Luke Thomas is a better option as left back? Do you know what? Maybe it would have been Koulibaly could have played that position. But I think with Justin out, we're going to see Koulibaly on the right and Victor Christensen on the next one. So that's something he's got to iron out on this game. So, I'll give you... Well, let me ask you. So I started at the start of your show saying, what did you think about it? Yeah, no one took ownership, did JC. So now that you've seen all the stuff that I've presented, what do you think of the game overall now?
I still think we played a closer game, right? A decent game, a good game, I want to say, against one of the top table teams. The problem is, if we play well or not, that doesn't matter. The only thing that really matters at this point is the result, right? So had we played 10 times worse than this and gotten a point, it would have been okay. It would very much have been okay. And what is heartbreaking is the fact that we are doing 80% or 90% of the work done needed to get a result. And then we throw it all away with a few horrifyingly bad mistakes. So yeah, that is that's disappointing. It is very disappointing that we couldn't get that point. But
well, do you know what? The second one I think is a crime because it should easily have been dealt with. The first one, I think it's bad. I think it's frustrating that we conceded one like that. But I think that first one isn't absolutely horrific. Like, it's still a very good ball. We still try to deal with both of the crosses. Yeah, we should do better. At the Premier League level, you need to do better with it. But, I wouldn't be as frustrated as with the second one. Anyway, it is what it is. So look, I'm going to give you my match thoughts. So for me, it's just another case of good performance FC. We've said this a few times. But let's look at the positives. The offside trap was very effective. We dealt with Arsenal set pieces and we largely contained them, right? Those two opportunities, I think if we had better players, do you know what? If we wouldn't have chased the game ourselves, I think, and we were just playing for the draw, I think we would have got it. So I think when JC says missed opportunity, I agree. But I do like the fact that Ruud went for the win because I think draws aren't enough. I think when the wins are there, we got to go for them. And even though this was a strong opposition, the win was there today. We got caught out with Victor Christensen pushing up to flow of the system, but we were pushing to win the game ourselves. I've said that, but looking back at it there, I think we could have dealt with that. But look, my overall thought, and I think it's fair what everyone says. In fact, it's just the title of the stream, still no goals. I
just want to
our front three and attacking threat is dire, Andreas. We can say that we played well, we defended well, but how many times have I shown you like a clear-cut opportunity? We didn't make one, right? That said, I think Ruud can set up a team and coach them. I've shown you the patterns of play. I've shown you the defensive structure, even the attacking structure. Does that mean he's the right man? Does that mean he's good enough? I'm not saying that, but I am saying that at least I see these things in the team that I didn't personally see under Steve Cooper. But look, I've got to say it. For me, I really question Ruud's attacking selections. I think they're kind of poor. Yeah, look, attack here is like a butter knife, nothing. Could maybe grab a goal versus Stockport. Fair play. But what I will say, and this is why, because I'm going to ask you this question as well, and ask you for chat as well. So let's assume that we'd get relegated. Do you stay with Ruud van Nistelrooy in the Championship? So I'll ask you, chat. You can put your comments in. But for me, the thing that I would say is that the way that this squad is built is that I don't think there's that much that he can really do with it, right? I think we needed to get better attacking players. I do question his attacking selections because I don't think ever that a team that's got 38-year-old Vardy, Bobby Reed, and Jordan Ayew as starters. Yeah, look, those, as you say, they can be good squad options and they could come on later. But you need better quality than that. And we don't have that quality. And that's why we can't score goals. I actually think I've shown you with the system that we could create the chances. It's just been other players. But that's my opinion. So what do you think, Duck, with what you're seeing?
I'd stick with Ruud. I like his system. I like his ideas. I think you can see he's leaving an imprint on his team. He is getting more out of this team in terms of a system than I saw any essence of under Cooper. And that's why I'm still with him. But I just believe that the squad that he has, the players don't all fit into a system. The front three is dreadful. The defense is too error prone. And he's certainly not perfect. You can definitely see he's making mistakes. The highlight against Everton, playing Vestergaard and that, sometimes his sub may become a bit too late. But I feel like he's learning and improving. And I still think even now it's so much better than under Cooper. But we need to get more points on the board sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we're going to come under the comparison in a second. Yeah, look, it is sad to talk about Vardy like a backup striker. The irony is Vardy, even at 32 or 33, when he won the Golden Boot under Brendan Rodgers, would have been amazing in this team. But I didn't take it there. But there were a few examples in this game. You saw it where he was really chugging and he was getting the ball and he just, he couldn't find the cross. I do think Rude's got to take some accountability there, though. You got to, he's got to be benched, or he can start the game, but as soon as he's getting tired, you've got to replace him. For me, I think he'd be more effective coming off the bench at the moment, getting back into form and then trying. But to be fair, we have seen that his ability to link up play is very good. And that is the real reason why he's in the team, in my opinion. Like I said, it's really underrated that Vardy managed to change his game from just being a pace merchant when he first broke through to the Premier League to becoming a complete striker. Like the ability to actually link up the play is very good. So look, I think it's only fair. Like you can see here, I believe now they might even have managed the same amount of games. So I wanted to compare Steve Cooper and Ruud van Nistelrooy. And I want to try and do this objectively, right? So you got to take your kind of personal opinion out of it and look at the kind of stats. And this is hard. There's a lot of stats. I'll try and explain what's going on and give you some patterns. Well, first and foremost, you've got to say that, look, yellow is a draw, green is a win, and red is a loss. And if you can compare to them, it is just a fact that Steve Cooper got more points than Ruud van Nistelrooy at the moment, right? He got draws against Spurs. We actually won that one the second time around. But he got a draw against Palace, a draw against Everton, a draw against Ipswich. And he beat Bournemouth and Southampton. Ruud, he managed to beat West Ham. He managed to beat Spurs. There's a lot of losses on his record, as you can see there, which is pretty bad. That said, we haven't yet played Southampton or Bournemouth, so who knows? Maybe Ruud will get points on there too. If you look at the stats, right, there's some good and there's some bad, right? So the two here, I've got expected goals and expected goals against, and also the amounts of shots against us and the amount of shots for. And basically, the TLDR here is this. Under Ruud, we have managed to get both the XG against us down and the shots against us down. But that has come as a price. And what is that price? That price is that, do you know what? Shots for, we are having a little bit less, but it's roughly the same. But our XG, and this is devastating for me to say this, but it's true, it's worse under Ruud than it was under Steve Cooper. And we had some stinkers under Steve Cooper, like the 0.32 the last time we played Arsenal, even though we scored twice. But here you can see again, look, this time around, it's even less. It was 0.22. Against Everton, 0.33. Against Fulham, weren't going to score. Against Villa, weren't going to score. Against Liverpool, weren't going to score, though we did get a goal that game. Against Newcastle, that's one of our worst. But wow, there's so many bad performances. So look, that's the reality. I think he has... And look, you can say, has he improved the defense? But it's another game that we've conceded 2 goals. So it's difficult. For me, like I say, when I'm looking at it from a coaching perspective, I do see improvements. I do see a style of play. I do see what we're trying to do. But at the same time, it's not working. And I don't know if you're seeing old Maresca for Chelsea right now, but he's not having a good time either. So what do you think about this, Andreas?
Yeah, I think a lot of what worked for Cooper in terms of his high XG games came off individual brilliance. And there weren't many of those high XG games for Cooper too. I mean, there is really the Southampton standout game. They got a red card. Ipswich, they got a red card. And there are all these variables that you can look into to try and explain why this is happening. I think in general, what Ruud has done defensively has worked really well. We just so rarely concede non-idiotic goal, you can say, in terms of it has to be our defense messing up because the system set up definitely is good defensively. Offensively speaking, we every now and then see the attacking patterns, but the front three is just not good enough. It's not fast enough. It's not technical enough. We have one player there who seems to have the quality to be playing in the Premier League week in, week out, and that's Bilal Al-Kanouch. And he's not the finisher often. He's the creator, and he hasn't been creating as much these past few games as well, but it's bad, man. It is bad. And I think we are at the point again where he needs to flip his attacking selection. Try something new, try something different. If that is some of the kids from the bench, or if it's getting Bonanotte back in, trying to see if you can make him work, Mavididi, if you can make him work, or whatever, I don't care. I just want to see him still tinkering because that still needs to work.
Yeah. I'll say it for me. I mean, look, that's trying to look at it objectively. For me, I think Ruud is the better manager. I mean, look, who knows? Maybe we could have brought in a better manager still. I think the squad that we've got, I mean, here we go. How can he create with a front three older than electricity? I would argue they're older than the Bible. But I mean, to be fair, you could say, look, he could change that front three, right? He does have Bonanotte. He does have Mavididi. He could try one of the youngsters. But look, I think this is a fair comment, which this is what Nazar said. I think this is stupid comparing because Cooper had everything and Rude had nothing. It's
That's
only recent.
and I think that's a good point as well, right?
Yeah.
It's all the signings. None of them was Rude signings. And yes, Bilal has fitted well into his system, but Skip completely out in the cold. And I don't think it over Reed. I'm 100% sure Rude would want a different player. It's simply due to the fact that what he has as options are so limited that he has to use some of them because it's just in shambles.
Yeah, and as we say, honestly, swap the whole front three and go Steffi, Daka, Facundo. I wouldn't be against doing something like that, or at least putting one or two of them in there because you need, especially with Steffi and Daka, you got pace, and I've shown you that there's a few examples there where we're getting in, and faster pace could make all the difference. Anyway, let's take a look at more. So here were the other results in the league. So I guess the surprise one is even though they're down to 10 men, Ipswich actually grabbed a point against Villa. And what does that mean? That means actually Wolves had a good performance, but they didn't get anything at Anfield. But what it means is, unfortunately, we dropped a position. So we're now down in 19th, which is a stinker. Not looking good. Ipswich, their next game is against Spurs. They actually beat them the last time they played Spurs. Although, I don't think Spurs look too good, actually, even though they beat Man United. Our next game is Brentford, but your table's not looking good. But look, I suppose, as it stands, we still are only... Well, let's call it 3 points because the goal difference is bad, but we do play Wolves. So in theory, we still have a chance, but it's looking gloomier and gloomier. 13 games to go as it stands right now. Here are our fixtures coming up. So we've actually got a game this Friday. So join us for the watch along. Lux is going to be doing that 8 o'clock. We're playing Brentford at home. What could go wrong? We only lost 4-0 to them the last time we played them, as pretty much Denmark's B team or A team smashed us with Damsgaard. I remember.
I think this game will be very different. I think that's important to say. It was one game between the managers. We tried to 5-back. They hadn't trained it. Many things were wrong that game, right? And were off. And that was in a period where Brentford was so dominant at home. They have picked up their away form. They are a very good team. They are the favorites, I want to say. Mm-hmm. But we have to go in with belief at the very least that we can get something in that game, because in the home games, especially over the next 5, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at that. You're looking at maybe the West Ham game as well, to be honest. But United at home, considering that current form, unless something drastically changes there, we have to look at that game as a game where we can get something.
I would say 4 of these 5 games, honestly, I think we could get something from. I still think Brentford's a very good team. Then we play West Ham away. They're in that sort of weird position where they may well be on the beach already. They've got a new manager, but they can't get to Europe. They're not going to get relegated. Chelsea, I'm going to be very interested when you and Luke do your match preview for this one, because I've been observing what's been happening to Enzo, and it's pretty interesting that he's having something similar to what happened to us last season. Then we've got Man United again, this time at home. But look at this, all these games pretty much on TV. So this game's on Friday this week. Next week, we're going to be at Thursday at 8 o'clock. Then we're Sunday, 2 o'clock, the one after that, and Sunday again at 7 o'clock.
Not many Saturdays recently, huh?
Yeah, that might be Easter weekend, I'm wondering. Yeah, we haven't got a single Saturday game for the next 5 games. That's really, really crazy. But that's how the chips have fallen. I did also think that this game, I had to mention it. We haven't done anything for, but here we go. Internal review, you don't have a clue. That was obviously the chant going there with the protest. It did get onto TV. Here you can see John Rudkin. Looks like he's going for a shit right there. Pardon my language. I don't know. It seemed like a bit of a damp squib. What did you make of the protest overall, Andreas? Just give me some short thoughts.
I mean, definitely could have been better, right? But I think there are many things that could be better. I think at the very least, they got the message out there. It was known. It got heard. We saw it on TV. We saw the Danish commentators even talk about it. And that's a win in my book. So, yeah, I think overall, definitely room for improvement, massive room for improvement. But the core points and the key concepts reached across to a big audience. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, here we go. The protest brought the message to the mainstream. It's something. Like I said, for my opinion, was kind of like, didn't think it would get much support. It didn't, but I still felt it was a useful thing to happen, just to sort of show these guys that, look, you got to stop messing about. What's going on here. Right, give you the schedule. So obviously analysis just had. Foxes then tomorrow. Match preview for Brentford will be done by Andreas and Luke on Thursday. And then we've got a match day live with Locks day after. We won't be on Saturday. I think we are going to put a video out on Saturday, and then we'll have Good Morning Foxes on Sunday as per always. So yeah, look, that's it. That's the end of the stream. Thank you for joining. I thought it was an interesting game from a tactical perspective. I'll give fair play to Arteta for coming up with a bold move that no one saw coming, and it worked. Unfortunately for us, it's another case of a good performance, but we didn't get anything from it. Let's hope at least we can have a performance like that against Brentford, because as we said, we seem to play quite well against the good teams, but against the poorer teams or the teams where we might have a chance, we completely collapse. Let's see. Anyway, thank you so much for watching Blue Tinted Glasses, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Nice.